It sounds to me like that's witchcraft or maybe some sorcery that you're looking for there.
No, I don't think it's witchcraft, Mulder, or sorcery. I've had a look around, and I don't see any evidence of anything that warrants that kind of suspicion.
Yeah, well, maybe you don't know what you're looking for.
Like evidence of conjury or the black arts, or shamanism, divination, Wicca, or any kind of pagan or neo-pagan practice. Charms, cards, familiars, bloodstones, or hex signs, or any of the ritual tableau associated with the occult, Santeria, Voodoo, Macumba, or any high or low magic.
Scully,
Yes?
marry me.
I was hoping for something a little more helpful.
Hello and welcome to episode 110 of Most Unwanted, an X-Files podcast. We're pressed for time, so I've not got any silly intros today. Just straight in with a normal intro.
Well, I mean, sometimes it's nice to get back to normal, isn't it?
Yeah.
And sometimes I think we can. We're all very busy people in this pandemic where we've got nothing to do. No, the professionalism of this podcast, we choose the exact right times to record, so it's fine.
Which is, funnily enough, straight between me being at work and another call that we have to do. So
yes. So, but we're here, and that's the main thing. Speaking of professionalism in podcasts, let's just use a hypothetical situation here, right? Let's just go with it and just see what you think. If there was a podcast, let's say they reviewed certain TV shows, right? And one of the hosts fell asleep twice whilst watching the episode they was about to review.
Wow.
Now, would as a professional podcast host yourself, would you admit that live on air?
No, I'd keep that to myself.
Okay, interesting. Well,
good
I'm glad. And I've got no further comments.
Wow, that's... I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this episode then.
Oh, honestly.
Well, this might be the first time where we have vastly different opinions.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking
well,
forward to this.
I wouldn't say vastly, I guess, but yeah, I can sense a lot of negativity.
I mean, I can't help you know what? I wasn't talking about myself. Just a hypothetical situation.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot, yeah. Well, let's dig ourselves out of this negativity with some positivity, with some questions of the boys.
Questions with the boys. Questions with the boys. After the chasing sunset, one of life's simple joys. Questions with the boys.
What have you got for us?
Well, I've got the most positive of questions this week, and that is, besides the obvious of seeing your family and all the other stuff, what is the one thing you're looking forward to this year, 2021? What are you looking forward to? Just one thing. It could be anything. It could be a film. It could be a game. I don't know. Something that's planned, like, I don't know, a gig. I don't know if you've got any plans for that, but
we have actually got a gig that we've got planned and ready to go to. It was booked for last year, and we was going to go see Rammstein for Jem's birthday, and then that got postponed to June of this year, and now I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
What am I most looking for? You know what? It sounds so ridiculous, because I know everyone's like, oh, I really want to go to the pub. I really want to be able to just go out for a meal. That's what I want. I can't wait to just be able to go, oh, should we just go and grab a meal somewhere? Just go out and just have an hour or two. You know what? Like, even like, you know where we go to Chiquitos every year? Like, for people outside of the UK, it's like a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
And every year we go to the same Chiquitos, and it just happened to sort of weirdly become a tradition.
Yeah.
And we missed it last year because we couldn't do it. I really hope we can do it this year. It's just those little things where it's just like, it's just nice to just sit down and not have anything to do for an hour and just chat. Do you know what I mean?
That's the thing. Like, I mean, there's been sort of like takeaway meals from restaurants, but it's just not the same. Like, we had Nando's takeaway, and it's you can plate it up all you like. You're still sat in your front room.
Yeah, and it's the social aspect as well, isn't it? Like you can do as many like voiced like sort of video calls as you want, and like I'm quite we're both quite lucky because we've got like a good group of friends that are on like sort of PlayStation and stuff like that we can keep in touch with people that way, and some people don't have that. And we've got a podcast that we've got a reason like to literally spend 2 hours talking, but it's different, isn't it, being next to each other and sort of just sharing that time together. It feels different, and it's more social. Off the air, I'm looking forward to that.
Off the air, we were talking about this, about like board games and stuff. I know there's ways that you can sort of do a virtual version, but it's just not the same. Like the tactile feeling of actually being around a table and just actually interacting with things, it just feels artificial, and at that point you just think, might as well not bother, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. That, you know, and you saying that, like, God, what I wouldn't give to have a board game night. I'd love it. What about you? What are you looking for?
That's one of the things, but there was also, I'm just going to go media wise, just because that was the first thing that popped into my head. There's probably other things, but this is the first thing that popped into my head. There was a big film that was meant to be coming out this year that got delayed till next year. And I remember seeing the trailer and I was like, oh, that looks amazing. Then it got pushed back, obviously. Have you seen the trailer to June?
Yes.
So that, I've recently just read the book as well, because I thought, I'll get that done as well. And reading that has made me go, oh, this is going to be good. So I want that to be like hopefully be the first like big thing you go to see at the cinemas again. I mean, there'll be Marvel films and stuff like that, but outside of that, it'd be nice to just go to a cinema normally, I guess. I know you sort of went earlier in the last year.
Yeah, we were lucky to sort of go in between lockdowns when it was all like social distance and whatnot. But again, no film was out, so we ended up seeing The Matrix.
That's the thing, yeah. I do feel like this year, I think if everything goes to plan and we're sort of summer-wise, everything's back to normal, I feel like live entertainment and actual like in-person entertainment, you're just going to have an explosion because everyone's just going to be like, I want to see anything to just get me out of the house again.
Do you think everyone will, because like, this is what I'm thinking, just like, you know, general like cold and flus, like, I don't know whether it works like this, but do you think all of our like antibodies and like all of our immune systems have just taken a massive hit over the last 18 months. And then as soon as everyone goes back out again, everyone comes down with the flu.
Yeah, we got a flu epidemic again. We're like, God damn it. We cannot win. I don't know, yeah. I heard somewhere, this was supposed to be our positive segment. I heard somewhere that apparently this, like, coronavirus now could be, what did they call it? Endemic, I think is the word, which is basically like what the flu is, where it just keeps going. Yeah. Well, obviously we'll get better at adapting to it, like your body will get better at adapting to it. But yeah, I was just like, oh God, I'm gonna have to just deal with this forever. God.
I suppose it'd be kind of like the flu thing, where like people that are at risk will be go and get the jab for it every year if that's the case.
Yeah, but
so hopefully it won't be too bad.
But fingers crossed, we can go back to normal again.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and I can see it, and it's glorious.
Yeah. It's just, I think we just need to not rush it. That's the thing.
Yeah, that would help.
Yeah, but anyway, my second question, and I apologise for this because I wrote it a week ago because I thought it'd be funny, and now I'm sort of wondering whether this is the case. Checks.
Yes.
What is 77 times 11?
77. Oh my God! Here we go. So it's 7. Plus, oh my God, you put me on the spot here. So it would be 847.
Correct. Well done.
Thank you.
There you go.
I was, what about you?
Yeah, I feel like it was a very one-sided question. I thought it was funny writing it down. I was like, oh, we've not done that before. And then as soon as I saw it, I was like, this isn't going to go as well as I thought. I hope everyone else enjoyed it though, so you know.
You know what? It was nice to sort of get those cogs working again. You know, keeping loose. I think I embarrassed myself a little bit, but I'm cool with that. It's fine. Maths is my forte. It's good. It's cool.
To be fair, I think everyone's maths goes out the window unless you use it on a daily basis. Like after school, your math knowledge just goes downhill.
I always get stuck on, so like triangles and like figuring out like what the length of one side of the triangle is and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I know all the rules, and I remember doing it, and then every time I come back to it, I'm like, oh, what on earth is all this? I can't remember, like, I think I've got like 7 different rules in my head. I'm not sure which one's for which. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it just feels like you never use it enough to retain it.
That's the thing, innit? Like, I think if you're like, I don't know, a builder or something like that, or somebody who's constructing stuff, then you use it quite a lot.
An architect, I bet you would use it loads.
Yeah. But average Joe here, who, I can't remember the last time I worked out the other side of a triangle or something like that. Just not a clue.
No.
But anyway.
No.
Anyway. That's all we've got for questions. So shall we tackle an X-Files episode about a creepy doll? So this was episode 10 of season 5, entitled Chinga, I think is the word. It was directed by Kim Manners, written by Stephen King and Chris Carter. Now, that was an interesting sort of credit at the beginning of the episode.
Well, I'm going to repeat a story that I told you off air. I didn't see this at the start, and I thought I'm going to be very clever. And because I got Stephen King vibes throughout, and I was like, I was going to come to you and I was going to say, oh, didn't you feel like you had all the Stephen King mannerisms? And, and then I saw and I was like, oh, well, that's all I've got. I've got nothing interesting to say anymore. But yeah, it does feel Stephen Kingish.
It does.
It's got a lot of his mannerisms.
The only thing I was disappointed with that it wasn't Stephen Kingy is that Kingy is that the detective, the police chief, sheriff, whatever you call him. I was disappointed he didn't know about the mystery. Because that's usually another Stephen King where the town knows about something and they don't want to talk about it. But he was just like, "What? I don't know." But yeah,
I wrote. It was to an extent, but then he kept on going. He kept on like having all like this information that he held back for no reason at all. Yeah. So like he did know about it, but he was like, "Is anything strange?" No. Anything strange about her husband? Well, he did get murdered with a hook. Like, it was so stupid.
That is pretty strange, to be fair. He just wanted to go and take Scully on a lobster date. That's all he was interested in. But anyway, we'll get to that. The original air date was February the 8th, 1998. And we started in Amma Beach, Maine. So I think that's the first clue that this is Stephen King, that it's set in Maine. And we follow a little girl called Polly and her mother, Melissa, as they're going around a supermarket. And we see Polly's holding this doll, which is, in the notes that I had, it was listed that the doll's called Chinga, which is apparently, but it's never once mentioned in the entire episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe it's a type.
I've got no idea, like, the origins of that.
No, maybe it's a type of doll, but I've never heard that before. But anyway, I thought, a good intro to sort of get the creepy factor up there. A weird looking, well, not weird looking, but like sort of that creepy looking kid and a doll that looks very out of its time.
Yeah, the kid was very like sort of sullen and like very moody and just like looked older than she actually was, like her expressions, just very sort of moody, if you like. And that inevitably gives like this, when you see a kid not acting like a kid, it's very creepy in itself.
We see Polly, the little girl, notice as they're walking around the butcher called Dave, and she immediately tells the mother that she doesn't like this store and wants to leave. It feels very Twilight Zone as well, this episode does, with that kind of obey the kid story and the creepy doll story. It's very, I think those two mashed together. We see Melissa walking past one of the sort of fridges, and in the aisle she sees a reflection of Dave, and he has a knife in his eye. And as Melissa sort of goes to exit the store now, we see all the customers start clawing at their own eyes. And we go back into the butcher section and we see Dave see this sort of like shadow of a big doll. And he sort of goes to pull his knife on it, but then it's sort of turned on himself. And he proceeds to stab himself in the eye.
Yeah, or stabs to death even.
Yeah. And that's our intro. So, yeah, a bit of an... I thought this was, some kind of like psychic kid or psychic doll or something like. It felt very Annabelle as well.
Yeah.
These type of doll... Oh, carry on.
We've also got like Chucky and stuff like that. It's not original, is it? It's not an original idea really, and I don't think anything really in this episode's that original, and especially considering, like, I thought to myself, it feels like a Stephen King-Lite episode. Like, I thought, this is the X-Files take on a Stephen King film, and in a way, I almost give it more credit for that. When I found out Stephen King helped write it, it kind of just felt like he phoned it in a little bit. It wasn't... It had all of his mannerisms, but again, for me personally, I just didn't think it was that creative or imaginative at all, really. Even to the point where, like all the people in the shop, and they were just all like sort of, well, I mean, we this is just after this part, isn't it? But like it's not very inventive, like the way they kill each other either. Do you know what I mean? It just feels very. This is the power, and then we see what happens with that power.
Yeah, see, they never really explain what the power is as well, because they all start trying to like claw their eyes out. But it's sort of hinted at later on that this doll can sort of like is kind of like invisible, like this invisible force, and can like move things around. And it's like, well, what are they moving in this situation, like to make them want to claw their eyes out? I don't know. Yeah,
and there's no. Another thing that sort of bothered me was there's no motive either. Like I can't figure out why. The targets that this doll attacks, why is she attacking them?
Yeah.
Why is she latched onto? But then again, they do have that get out at the end of the episode where Scully literally turns on and says, "Well, maybe we don't need to know." And I kind of just felt like, "Oh, we do."
Yeah, kind of didn't need to watch this episode then, I guess. I don't know. I don't think I've ever watched like a creepy doll kind of story that hasn't felt not far-fetched, because obviously it's a creepy doll, but you know what I mean, like it just isn't, it never feels original, or I don't know, there's just never like Chucky and Annabelle and stuff like that I've seen. You can kind of always see where they're coming from, and this again is another sort of example of that I found early on. But we go into the intro, we come back and we see Scully, who is on a holiday, driving past the store, or she's going to like fuel up a car, and she sees an old man leave, and he says that they need a doctor. Now, I didn't think this old man would become a central part of the story, but we will see him again. Scully finds the butcher, who's dead, and I just think at this point Scully cannot catch a break. She's gone on a week-long vacation, is it? And she's accidentally happened on an X-File. Like, what are the chances?
She'd rented herself a convertible. Yeah. She was going to have the wind in her hair. She was going to have a great week away.
But there you go.
And it's the first time I think that I can remember that we get to see. Remember when we used to say that when Mulder used to like be out of a suit, it used to be like he was an Action Man figure, and like with all of his different outfits.
Yeah,
we got to see casual Scully this week as well.
Yeah, she definitely was on her dress down Friday routine, wasn't it? I don't know if they have the FBI, but anyway, she calls Mulder after she's sort of been dragged into this, who is sat back in DC. Going through multiple ways to sort of bide his time.
These phone calls with Mulder, I don't know whether you agree with me, hands down the best part of this episode.
100%, yeah. Everything, and the final scene as well. Well, not the final scene, but the one before the final scene. The final scene with Mulder and Scully, at least.
Yeah.
They are the best bits of the episode, and it feels like kind of one of the only reasons to go back and watch it if you've seen it before.
Honestly, I feel like that's the case.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not like sort of super down on the episode. For me, I thought the episode was very long, very sort of drawn out. I didn't think a lot happened. But these interactions are incredible. So yeah, all the whilst he's talking to her, we hear these strange noises coming from his TV screen.
Mulder,
Mulder, it's me.
I thought you were on vacation.
I am. I'm up in Maine.
Oh, I thought you said you didn't want to be disturbed. You wanted to get out of your head for a few days.
I don't. I mean, I do. What are you watching, Mulder?
It's the world's deadliest swarms.
So we find out that he's watching a documentary, or he says that he's watching a documentary, but we are constantly sort of doubting that and thinking maybe he's sort of...
especially as he scrambles to turn it off as soon as he hears.
Yeah, but he is actually watching a documentary on sort of like flies and wasps attacking. What's it called? Deadliest Swarms, is it, or something?
Yeah, and the reveal is perfect. Like, I just love the fact that you just see a glimpse of it, and you're like, oh, of course, that's what he was watching.
Yeah. We cut back to Scully. They're still on this phone call, but she's sort of talking to Mulder about the evidence or what's happened here. And Mulder sort of says that it might be witchcraft or sorcery. But Scully, weirdly, this feels like Scully's completely gone into X-Files mode now. She's like, she's not discounting that could be a possibility. She just says, oh, there's no evidence of that. So, and it's like, this seems to have happened quite quickly. Like, I know she's always been the skeptical one, but she seems quite believing of these like alternative theories now, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like a sudden change or if it's crept up on me slowly. I know she's slowly over time sort of changed, but she definitely feels more in Mulder's shoes, I guess, now.
Is this the call where he eventually asks her to marry him?
I can't remember. I think that was later on.
But regardless, I mean, I'll just talk about it now. I think it supports your theory, but I think what it sort of shows is that when she's dubious and when she's doubting and when she's sort of criticising all these theories that Mulder has in every other episode, it's not that she doesn't believe what he's saying. She just knows her role. She knows that in order to find the truth out, it needs a critical eye rather than someone that will just run away with any idea. It needs someone sort of to take a step back and go, well, is this the most logical solution? But the fact that she lists off every type of evidence that she would look for in a case for witchcraft or sorcery, and Mulder just sort of realizes, hang on, she does know what she's talking about. Like, she is perfectly capable of doing these X-Files on her own. She just brings a different thing to the team when they're both together. Yeah.
She definitely, she's sort of filling both shoes, I guess, while she's on her own. So, yeah. It was interesting, but, it was sort of out of nowhere. Not out of nowhere because it has sort of been creeping up on us, but it does feel, quite, a sort of change, to the norm. But yeah, I enjoyed that. But again, these calls are probably some of the better things in the episode. So yeah, I sort of picked a lot from these. She sort of goes back and she's been assisted by the, police chief, Jack, and his deputy Buddy. And, Scully's reviewing this, security footage. And she notices that Melissa and, Polly, her daughter, are both rushing towards the exit, and they seem to be the only ones who aren't affected by this sort of affliction that everyone's had. This is where Jack says that some of the townspeople believe that Melissa might be a witch, and obviously they're in Maine, New England, so quite close to Salem. There must still be all of that. No, Salem, Massachusetts, isn't it? This is where I'm ruining my American geography again. But anyway, but she sort of hints that there is this kind of like history of witch hunting and stuff in around these area. Yeah. But as Scully and Jack are talking, Buddy's on the phone to Melissa, and he's promising to help. But he says, stay away. He wants her to stay away, basically. And in the background of Melissa's house, we see this sort of large doll shadow again. So it's sort of reinforced that it's sort of lingering there. Jack and Scully both go to visit Melissa and find that the house is unoccupied. And Jack then goes on and explains a bit more of the backstory to Melissa, I guess. And she explains that she was married to a fisherman, but she's widowed after the husband died in a boating accident. I think it's at this point where he sort of says, yeah, he got skewered by a hook, a fish hook.
Just completely neglected to mention that it was. There's nothing unusual about this family. Well, there is this one thing. You know what I mean?
It's a hard wound to inflict on yourself or accidentally be inflicted to you, you know what I mean? It's quite a deliberate anyway. But yeah, he decides to leave that till the last minute, I guess, to explain. And he also explains some more strange happenings in the family, is that Polly had an incident at a daycare centre between the woman who runs it, Jane. And she says that Jane slapped Polly because she became uncontrollable. And then afterwards she was sort of thrown to the ground. And Jack says that he doesn't think that doesn't think that the little girl ever touched Jane or ever hit her. So again, something else weird is going on here. And finally, some more information is that the butcher who died was apparently in love with Melissa, but Melissa wasn't really interested. He sort of goes on to say he made a bit of a fool of himself and his wife. Yeah,
but again, this was strange to me because this whole scene seemed to indicate that there was a reason for what the doll was doing, but that's never really explored. They never really, like, why would the doll care?
Yeah, I think the doll's just a dickhead.
Why wasn't that one of Mulder's lines? Is it witchcraft sorcery? No, I don't think so. I think the doll.
Just a dickhead, yeah. That's really the only sort of. There's nothing else. It's just the doll just likes being mean, just killing people.
That's the only thing I can come up with.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the main takeaway anyway. But yeah, this is sort of where you sort of get that classic Stephen King of the town sort of knows something's going on, but not really. Again, they aren't aware that there's this malign spirit inside the doll that's taking over everything. But they're like, oh, these weird things keep happening, but you know, it's normal. Buddy goes to meet Melissa and Polly at an ice cream shop, and Melissa explains that she sees these visions, and she mentions that she saw Dave dead before he actually stabbed himself. And this is where Buddy gives Melissa sort of this key to a cabin off in the woods and says, go there, it'll be safe, and he'll meet her there, basically. But as this is happening, Polly goes to get some more. This, again, a weird scene. Polly goes to get some more cherries for her ice cream, and the woman behind the counter says, no, you've got to pay for them, basically. And no free cherries means you're going to get your scalp ripped off.
Exactly. For this doll, like, doesn't... Is the doll an extension of Polly, maybe?
The only thing I can think of is, like, do you know in Harry Potter, where he's got that scar on his... Spoilers for Harry Potter, everyone. I mean, it's been a while, but you never know. He's got the scar on his head, and it's like a Horcrux in it of... what's his name? The bad guy? Voldemort. Yeah. I like how I'm doing deep knowledge of this, but I don't remember the main villain's name. Anyway.
So, like, you're saying, like, it kind of works like an imprint.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, I don't know, this evil spirit is sort of feeding off the little kid and vice versa. They're sort of like a feedback loop, I guess.
But then you've got the needless murder of the dad straight off the bat.
I don't know.
Really strange. Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But this was the first scene I fell asleep in, by the way.
Okay.
It was just... when I say fall asleep, I mean like sort of close my eyes and then drift off for like 30 seconds and I have to rewind it.
You're like somebody on a bus.
Yeah. It was just, I just thought it was so slow, the episode in general. It was very formulaic, just going to each person and then something would happen with the doll and then go to the next person and then something would happen with the doll. And I don't know, I don't know what it was, but it just never hooked me. And I just thought it was very, very sort of predictable. I don't know. Yeah. It just something didn't grab me with this episode.
See, it felt kind of like early X-Files, you know what I mean? Like a Series 1 episode where it's like that. It is quite formulaic because they hadn't sort of found their feet to sort of explore anything. So it kind of feels like that. But again, it's still got more of the polish, I suppose, on these new ones.
Yeah. However, the phone calls definitely do bring the episode up a little bit.
Yeah.
And my second favourite scene is the next one we're going to talk about, I think.
Okay. Is this where basically she's arguing about the cherries? Is it that bit or?
No, so the scene after that with the daycare lady.
Okay, yeah. So
I really enjoyed that scene.
So yeah, just quickly, the woman behind the counter is messing around near an ice cream machine, and Ponytail is sort of dragged into it by this unseen, unseen sort of thing, which is the doll.
If anything,
yeah,
should know better.
Yeah, you go wear a hairnet. I always thought in stuff.
Yeah,
like
exactly. She should be wearing a hairnet. Yeah. This is on her.
Yeah, yeah. That would be harsh on the insurance. Sorry, you now have no hair, but it is your fault. But yeah, so luckily enough, Buddy jumps the counter and sort of turns the machine off just in time, so it doesn't completely scalp her, I guess. Yeah, next we see Scully and the sheriff go to see Jane, and this is the woman at the daycare centre, and she's very Old Testament, this woman is. She's not very forgiving of Polly or her mother, and she actually says that her mother, Melissa, is a descendant of witches, and that she's passed on this curse to Polly by being born. And yeah, we get this back and forth scene where Jane is sort of not willing to give any information, doesn't want to let anyone in, and is quite against this family, I guess. Yeah. Later on, we see Melissa going to this cabin that she'd been given the key to, and she sees another vision, and this time it's actually Jane, the daycare woman, and she's got sort of like this bloody sort of face as she's in the back or at the back window of the car. And this is where Melissa turns the car around and nearly kills the guy who's guarding it, drives off, and we hear, we go back to the daycare centre and we see Jane in there, and there's this song, the Hokey Pokey, playing on a vinyl.
So, this is a great scene because I thought the atmosphere was really good. I thought the acting was phenomenal with what happens later in this scene. But the biggest thing for me, a whole X-Files should be devoted to this. The Hokey Pokey. Did you know this song had different names in different countries?
Do you know what? I've only just realised that as I've just said it out loud. Yeah, it's the Hokey Cokey. I always thought it was.
It's definitely the Hokey Cokey, and anyone who says Hokey Pokey is wrong. I looked this up straight away. It's got different names all over the shop. It's Hokey Pokey in America, Hokey Cokey in the UK and Canada, I think, and Australia. It's the Boogie Woogie some places. It's insane.
Wow, this is...
They're all wrong. Hokey Cokey is the right song.
Do you know how, like, in the UK we have this, like, debate about what you call, like, a bread roll? And it's, like, different names. This is, like, the international version of that. What do you call the Hokey Pokey? Hokey Cokey, sorry. I just saw it again.
Dare you?
Betraying my roots. Yeah, let us know. What do you call the Hokey Cokey in your country? the funniest answer wins. Yeah, so we hear this song, and Jane is making her way around this sort of daycare in the dark, and Tash just messaged me and said, "It's the Hokey Cokey."
It's the Hokey Cokey.
Yeah.
It is definitely the Hokey Cokey.
Yeah, we go.
I'm not even entertaining this. Oh, let's do a surf. No, this anyone who do not message in because you're wrong. You're wrong.
We're taking a stand. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So Jane's walking around in the daycare.
Do they still do the same dance?
I imagine so. Yeah, it's got the same tune. So
the dance, everyone knows the hokey cokey dance, which is you all hold hands. It's usually at kids' parties. You hold hands with it in a big circle, and then as it goes, whoa, hokey coke, and then you all sort of go into the center and lift your arms up, and then you come back out, and then go back in the center again. Does everyone do that? Because if they don't, they're doing the dance.
They're also doing it wrong. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna have to do some research. This is the most amount of research we've ever had to do for an X-Files episode. Is on the Hokey Cokey.
Okay, so let's further what you said. If you don't call it the Hokey Cokey, get in touch. Let us know what you do call it, and then send us a formal apology for calling it whatever you call it.
This feels very much like the British Empire is putting its stamp. Yeah. Only us in Canada are right. The ones who, if you ain't got a queen, you're wrong. Well, I mean, yeah. I'm reticent to sort of take an attack on the American viewers, as that's about 60% of our listening population, and I'm scared.
If you're not with us, you're against us.
we only want that 40%, the strong 40%. Oh, it's gone very Brexit all of a sudden. Oh, well, anyway, I didn't realise this would have such a divisive.
I'm going to let you talk about this scene whilst I cool down.
Okay. So yeah, Janie's making her way through the daycare centre in the dark, and she comes across, I think it's like a shadow or some like hallucination, I can't remember, of the doll, and she picks up a piece of a broken record off the floor to sort of defend herself. But slowly
to actually get to the record player, she walks across all these records that are strewn across the floor.
Yeah.
You might not have seen that, Luke, because the lighting is so bloody terrible.
Oh, yeah, it is pretty dark here. I don't know what else to say on this.
I'm still angry about the Hokey Cokey. I'm sorry.
And it's brought back anger from another episode. Yeah, I mean, is there anything... What's happened today? What's happened this week?
I don't know what's going on. I think I just need to calm down. Let's just carry on.
Okay. So yeah, she picks up this record to defend herself, but she turns it on herself. One of my notes on this, I didn't know vinyl was that sharp, because she then like goes and stabs herself in the throat, doesn't she? Or she cuts her own throat with it. The only thing I can think of is those old records that are like metal.
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. I've got it in my head that they can be that sharp, especially if they're sort of jagged. I don't know.
I guess so,
but
yeah.
I did think this was, in all seriousness, I thought this was a really good scene.
Yeah.
I thought the acting was really good, and like when she turns it on herself and she sort of gets scared at what she's doing. I did genuinely think it was a very scary scene, especially with the music in the background.
That's the thing for me. The music and the sort of pan away before you see what's happening. It reminded me a lot of Home. Obviously it wasn't as effective. But I did get that kind of vibe as well, because it's, they sort of go away before you see the full, like, sort of damage of what's happening. And you get this sort of, like, jaunty music that's not matching with what's happening in the episode. So, yeah. Very different scene that we see next. A bit of a change of pace. It's Scully in the bath. which I am pretty sure is only in here for that 90s sort of lads mag kind of.
Yeah, it doesn't really have a place in here,
No,
does it?
it's there out of nowhere that all of a sudden it's just Scully in the bath. And I was like, what's going on?
I didn't pick up on it at first, but yeah, there's no plot points at all, is there?
No. Just, I mean, she's having a relaxing bath. She's trying to relax on a holiday, I guess, is what she's doing. She can't relax because she's interrupted by the police, who have basically come to say, we need you on another one, because they can't do their own goddamn job.
I did like this, where like he doesn't actually say it, so he just kind of gives her a look and goes, "You know what I need, like it's just come along."
We see. I quite like. Again, this is another point there where you see Scully having to play the role of Mulder, because she, I think she says something along the lines of, "We have to sort of look towards the extreme possibilities," or something along those lines. And it's like, oh, that's again from like a Scully from like a series much earlier. She would never have seen it from this point of view, and I feel like
true.
she's. But then again, for after what she's seen, I don't think you can ever not discount that possibility.
No, and like I said, I don't think it's the fact. I'm more certain than ever now that she doesn't ever discount the sort of the supernatural. It's always just playing the sort of devil's advocate to Mulder's crazy theories.
Yeah. We go back to Melissa's house and we hear the Hokey Pokey. Sorry. Playing again. And you'd be really annoyed if you were in this house, because this kid plays it all the time, apparently.
Oh, God.
And Melissa has another vision. This time she sees Buddy, the cop who's been helping her. She sees his corpse.
Do you think the plot twist is that Melissa never gets possessed? She's just really angry that it's the wrong version of the Hokey Cokey that she starts hitting herself.
It's like the Babadook, where it's like, is this a monster, or is she just really annoyed with a kid? But yeah, so we see this. Doesn't she at one point, she's like, turn the music off or something. Oh no, she tries to do something with a doll, and it sort of like does the old jump scare thing, doesn't it? I don't know if it's this part or later on, I can't remember.
Yeah, it does opens the eyes, doesn't it?
Yeah, with the shrill, like, sort of violin noise.
Yeah.
But yeah, she sees Buddy's corpse as well now. And this is when Buddy finds Melissa, and he's convinced that she's had something to do with this woman's murder. And he says that she needs to come with him to the station. And I think he sort of bangs on the door, isn't he? Or she, no, that's later on with the banging. But yeah, he's saying that she needs to come, and, Polly, the kid, not best pleased with that. And later on, we see that, Buddy's lying on the floor, bloody, and his nightstick's next to him, battered.
Yeah.
So, again, the doll's got to another one. Next, a scene that it's skipped over in the notes, but I feel like we can't skip over this enough. Scully and the chief of police go to eat some lobsters.
Yeah.
My God, that is a big lobster that they get.
I've never had lobster.
No,
so I don't know what a normal lobster is, to be honest, but it looked ridiculous.
Yeah. I think the only time I've had lobster, it was sort of already done. You know what I mean? Like, you don't do the... So it's like, I didn't get the sort of experience, I suppose. But then again, I don't know if I want the experience of ripping somebody's limbs off. But anyway, so they're eating this lobster, which Scully's sort of a bit freaked out by, but he's just straight in there. He's like, do you want this? Gives her a claw. But they start talking about what's really going on, and Scully notices the old man from earlier that she saw at the supermarket on the boat just outside, and the chief of police says, well, that's actually the boat that Melissa's husband was killed on. So she goes to investigate, and we find out the full backstory of Melissa's husband's death.
What happened? You ask that question around here, you get as many stories as fishermen.
You were on board the night that he died. What do you think?
I told my story to the chief.
People's stories change.
Folks blame the widow.
Who do you blame?
He was wild for her. He worked very hard to build that little house for her. When that daughter came, you'd need a mop to wipe the smile off his face. We'd set out to sea on the girl's last birthday. He was counting the hours before he'd be home again.
Hey, look at Davy Jones to my little Polly.
3 days later, he was dead.
And you know what killed him?
The eyes play tricks at night. Water up against the hull, making noises. Sometimes you hear things.
But you saw something in that grocery store. That little girl and her dolly.
The moment I saw them, I knew.
And so, yeah, we find out that he basically had fished out a doll from the sea, and just after doing this, he got a grappling hook through his head.
So we know that this doll it was basically at the bottom of the sea, and that's where it's come from. It's obviously like it's a cursed object, and that's what started all this.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's just something personal with me. I absolutely love like fisherman horror stories. You know what I mean? Like those like naval or nautical, horror stories. Anything around that. Like I just recently read. It's not a ghost story or anything like that, but it's the H.P. Lovecraft stuff, and his is quite like sea related as well.
Yeah.
That like sort of unknown stuff at the sea, and I always like that. Like even like the fog and stuff like that. It's a bit corny, but it's always interesting to see. I don't know if it's just that stuff. I think that's why I'm kind of like not as down on it, because it's got that link to something. I'm like, oh, that was interesting, but
I think it's definitely an interesting theme, isn't it? Because I think it's that fear of the unknown, like the sea and the oceans that like are largely unexplored places, it's that world that we don't really know about. Do you know what I mean?
I do think it's a weird connection though, because I wouldn't put Killer Doll and something from the depths of the sea together. You know what I mean? Like it's a weird sort of, I don't know how they those two sort of plot threads came together, but who knows what happens in these writers' meetings. So, we see Melissa now nailing all of her doors and windows shut. She'd already started doing that actually when we first saw her. So like some of her windows were nailed shut, but now she's just nailing herself in completely.
Yeah, she's in panic mode at this point, isn't she?
And this is where Polly comes downstairs and says that she can't sleep because all of the banging basically. Melissa says that she'll stop hammering, and then she sees a reflection of herself in the window, and she's got a hammer smashed into her head. So she's sort of seen her own death now. We see Scully and the police chief driving to Melissa's home, and Scully looks through and sees that Melissa is now trying to set the house on fire. She's pouring, I don't know if it's gasoline or something, but some kind of flammable liquid on the floor.
Yeah, but every time she lights a match, it gets blown out instantly, doesn't it?
Yeah. So again, it's this doll is sort of like stopping it from happening. It starts saying "Don't play with matches" as well. The doll does. So again, you sort of get this sort of weird sentience from it.
And this next line doesn't register with me either, because then she ends up getting when the matches keep going out and like Scully's like banging, trying to get in and trying to help, and they're like sort of trying to break down the door. She then goes to get a knife, and the doll says "Don't play with knives" and throws the knife out. Yeah, and then says "Play with a hammer instead" or something like that. I'm like, well, what was wrong with a knife if you can control what she does with it? Like, what's wrong with a knife?
Again, the doll's the doll's a dickhead. That's why it's just playing with her now at this point. It's just an arsehole, this doll is. So she gets her kitchen knife, and she says the doll says "Don't play with knives," and this is where the police chief breaks down the door She runs to get a hammer and tells him to get away from her. And this is where Scully tries to snatch the doll from Polly. And this bit made me laugh because they're obviously at this point, Scully's sort of already put the idea that the doll's doing this into her head, and she's still being quite gentle with the kid. She's like, no, give me the doll, come on. And it's like, she's gonna smash her head in it, just grab it off. You know what I mean? I was like, doesn't matter.
Well, that's the thing. She is currently hitting herself with the hammer.
Yes, yeah.
Like the fact how she doesn't do more damage to herself, I'll never know because she's proper hitting herself.
With like the sort of what's the hooked end, is it? Whatever I don't know what it is. You know, the end that you pull the nails out with. Yeah. That end as well, so it'd be sharp, and she's bashing herself in the head. But yeah, so this is happening. Scully gets the doll from her eventually, and runs downstairs and throws the doll in the microwave. Microwaves it, and the doll sort of says, "I want to play," as it sort of burns and melts. Yeah, and the doll is definitely dead. So there we go. We don't have to worry about that anymore.
It feels like you know something that I don't.
No. Well, just the ending.
Oh, is that the same doll? I thought it was like a different. I suppose, yeah.
It's burnt,
it's
isn't
all mangled, isn't it? See, I thought it was like sludge from the bottom of the lake. I thought it was like the brother version of the sister doll type thing.
Found a different doll. I thought it was burnt. That's what I assumed it was. But yeah,
it makes more sense now. Why did they throw it back in the sea?
I don't know. Why did they do anything in these? It's just like, I don't know. I don't know. What could you do with it? It's been melted some more. I don't know.
Take it into for evidence.
Yeah.
In that big place where you keep all your X-Files.
Yeah. Maybe they did, and it escaped to the sea.
Okay, yeah, we'll go with that.
Anyway, but we have one other scene as well. So yeah, that's the end of that scene where they fish it back out of the water. Ha ha ha! The doll's not really dead, and you get the classic X-Files ending. What is the real ending in this episode, though, is Scully goes back to DC and just wants to know what Mulder's been doing on his break. As we've seen, we probably haven't explained, but as we've seen on his calls, he's been watching videos about killer swarms. He's been playing basketball in his own house. Yeah. And then finally we see that he's been shot. He's sharpening pencils. We don't understand why, until one just falls on him after he's sort of saying, yeah, I've been doing this, that, and the other. One falls on him, and as we look up, we see that the ceiling is absolutely covered in pencils.
I love the fact that Scully went away for a vacation for a week off, ends up doing all the X-Files work, and Mulder's like, oh, well, I'm so glad that you wasn't around this week because I managed to get so much work done. Yeah. And he's done nothing all week. He's just had the time of his life. Not even the time of his life. I don't actually think he enjoys it. I think he's just been aimlessly waiting for something to do.
I think, it shows that he can't have a day off because it's just boring. Like, if he's not doing X-Files stuff, he doesn't know what to do with himself, really, as we saw. One falls on him. And honestly, it should have had wah, wah, wah. Like, it should have just had that to finish it off because it was so, like, sitcom-y, you know what I mean? Where, like, Scully rolls her eyes and then, I feel like that would have been the better ending if it sort of gone into that sort of, the circle, like, goes in at the end. And, Looney Tunes style. But we sort of end, with the fishermen. But what did you think of the episode?
So in short, I think it basically all boils down to the horror that ensues when a whole town realizes they're listening to the wrong version of a classic song. I think that's the main takeaway from this.
What's the classic song?
The Hokey Cokey.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I forgot about that. That's a good callback, actually.
And then, literally, if you look at it, the doll is just a metaphor, Luke. The doll is a metaphor for the travesty that is the Hokey Pokey. If you look at it, when they realise, they start clawing their face off because they know, it's the worst version of this song that we've been listening to our entire lives.
We've done it wrong.
That's what this episode's about in my eyes.
Do you know what? Have you ever seen Event Horizon? It's a sci-fi film where they basically try and like go faster than light, and they open like a portal to hell, and they all rip out their own eyes because what they've seen is just too terrifying. So, I mean, they should have gone for their ears, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It would have made more sense, but, it's Stephen King. He's not the best writer.
Yeah, he's not the smartest guy in the room, is he? Neither am I with that analogy, but anyway.
No, in all seriousness, I find it difficult to sort of be positive about this one, if I'm being honest. I just thought it was really boring. I really enjoyed the scenes between Mulder and Scully, but apart from that, I just didn't think there was many redeeming features. I thought it was very samey. It was the same scene over and over again. It was very predictable, and it just wasn't for me. I don't know what it was. I just thought it was very slow, and the fact that I kept on sort of just drifting off and just sort of struggled to keep my attention, I think says a lot about it.
Yeah.
Just definitely, it wasn't for me, this episode, sadly.
Yeah. Surprisingly, I think I was quite entertained by it. I don't know why, but I sort of thinking about it, I expected it to be crap. Like, as soon as I saw that it was a Killer Doll episode, I was like, I don't even think the X-Files are going to make this interesting, just because I've got such a low opinion of those like stories anyway. I think I was just not like my expectations were rock bottom. Yeah, and because of that, I think it actually did better than I thought, and I thought it was quite entertaining. I think the comedy definitely in a lot of the like sort of Mulder and Scully interactions definitely helped it. I didn't find it scary as such. I like as we mentioned, I like the scene with the woman at the daycare. That was interesting just because of the sort of way it was filmed. But yeah, the actual like bulk of the episode I wasn't that bothered with, but there was a lot of like funny moments or unintentionally funny moments as well from like the police chief that sort of made it a bit more entertaining to me.
And the police chief is a quintessential Stephen King character, isn't he? Like all over.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't think it was as bad, but it's still not great. I'm not going to say it's one of the better episodes.
Yeah.
Luke's production notes.
This episode was co-written by horror author Stephen King. King initially approached series co-star David Duchovny and informed him he was a fan of the show and wanted to work on an episode. After contacting series creator Chris Carter, he was hired as a guest writer after first being offered the chance to write an episode of Millennium. During the writing process, King worked remotely at his home in Maine, sending drafts of the script to Carter to rewrite. Carter heavily edited the story because, as he explained, Stephen wasn't used to writing for Mulder and Scully. The Mulder and Scully story in this original draft didn't quite work. Carter helped finalise the draft, and with one of his biggest changes being the separation of Mulder and Scully. Kim Manners, the director of the episode, later said, "I was very excited to be able to direct a Stephen King piece. When it was all said and done, there was very little Stephen King left in it. The nuts and bolts were his, but this was one of Chris Carter's scripts."
How fascinating is it, though, that obviously Stephen King's one of the greatest authors ever, especially horror authors. Isn't it fascinating that the scenes I liked the most were Chris Carter's additions?
Yeah. It is. I think when you were saying it felt very phoned in Stephen King, I did think, I wonder if that's because it's been so heavily edited. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very good point. Yeah. Maybe it's not pure full on Stephen King because it's not his vision as such. It's not just what he wanted. Sort of idea.
Yeah. I have heard that a lot though with Stephen King, that he's a good writer, but he's not good at adapting his own stuff. Because didn't he adapt The Shining because he didn't like The Shining that Kubrick did, and apparently it's awful. It's not very good at all. Yeah.
No, I don't know, to be honest. I've never heard that.
So maybe it was just another one of those situations where it was like, good story, but it's not going to work for TV, but who knows. During filming, Gillian Anderson struggled with delivering her lines. She explained the way the script was originally read to me initially seemed to me as if Scully kind of stepped up to the plate and played along with the sheriff's humour. Thus she performed her lines in a tongue-in-cheek manner before Carter called her and told her that her lines were not meant to be humorous. He also informed her that the production staff was having to edit out a lot of stuff to correct the issue.
Aww.
Imagine being told, stop being funny.
I know, yeah.
I
didn't think the sheriff was that funny, if I'm honest.
No, it's. I mean, he had sort of like this dry wit about him, where he'd sort of be like, "Oh, anyway," like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. That was such a good impression.
That one's definitely going to stay in. But yeah, it's weird. It sounds like there's a lot of stuff that sort of hampered this episode, from like the writing to the editing of Gillian Anderson. But anyway, several of the episode scenes were shot on location. For instance, the gas station scene was filmed in a real gas station across from the series production headquarters. Likewise, the supermarket scenes were filmed in a real store named Shop Easy, located in Port Coquitlam. I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, go with it.
The scenes required this supermarket to close before the Christmas holidays and be installed with upright freezers. Reportedly, during the self-mutilation scene in the supermarket, a real customer stumbled onto the set, saw the commotion, and hurriedly left in a panic. It would be interesting if if you didn't see the cameras and that, you'd sort of, you'd have no idea what was going on, I suppose, yeah. They should have left him in, he'd be a good extra, you know what I mean?
I was going to say, yeah, it's unpaid work.
Yeah, a guy panicking and running out, or, yeah, it's the best acting. Anyway, the Death Under Glass scene, featuring Dave the Butcher with a knife in his eye, was created in post-production with the help of a computer. Special effects supervisor Laurie Kelson George tested the scene on her 9 and 11-year-old sons, explaining, I gauge a lot of the show by whether my kids can stand them or not. If they can't, I figure I succeeded. Chinga bothered them a lot. So there you go. Yeah. Mess up your kids, make a good TV show. Chinga, the title doll, the titular evil doll, shall I say, was created by sewing together various doll parts. An oversized doll's head was then attached to the body and fitted with the world's largest wig. That's a quotation. I don't know if it's actually the world's largest wig.
Yeah, it seems very sort of just thrown out there.
Yeah. It did look strange. I'll give it that. So, unbeknownst to either Carter or King, the word chinga is colloquially a Spanish swear word. I don't know what it means, so we might be offending a lot of people.
Have you been? What have you been saying on this episode?
If anyone does,
it was a Spanish swear word. So
apparently, yeah.
Have they all changed? You'd think they'd change the name of the episode.
Maybe it's not that offensive. Maybe.
Yeah.
If you do know, if you speak Spanish, what does chinga mean? And should we be saying it?
Maybe stop saying it, Luke, just in case.
Can't. They've gone this far now. Most of the makeup work was created by artist Toby Lindala, who appreciated the chance to work on a Stephen King project.
I think that is the thing. Like, regardless of whether it was watered down Stephen King, I bet you they had a lot of interest to work on this, just to sort of be a part of a Stephen King production.
Yeah, I think in the 90s it was like the height of popularity, I suppose, and he just, like, Misery would just come out, so it would be like
there's tons.
I mean, there's lots.
Joe Carey.
Yeah.
There's just absolute tons. Everything he touched turned to gold, didn't it, basically?
It stinks.
Welcome to the Critic's Files.
What would you give this one?
I'm going to give it a 5.
5. Yeah.
Right down the middle. I don't think it was like a really bad episode. Put it this way, it's definitely going to be one, on a rewatch, I'd skip it.
Yeah.
Like, it just didn't hold my attention enough to warrant a rewatch. I think 5 to 2.
To be honest, yeah, I think this episode is definitely skippable. Even if like the way I sort of see it is quite enjoyable still, I'd probably skip this because there's nothing to the story really apart from those the sort of scenes with Mulder and Scully, and I don't even think
30-second scenes, yeah.
And I don't even think that's like, it's not good character development as such. It's just, it's kind of funny, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, but anyway, I'll give it a 7.5.
Okay.
I've sort of, again, I enjoyed it. I thought it was entertaining. Wasn't amazing, but again, I feel like my expectations were rock bottom, so they were, they were surpassed.
That's good. I mean, again, it just goes to show that, like, I suppose it depends on what you're looking for from an episode as well.
Yeah. With 3,037 votes, IMDb gave it a 7.7, so sort of a bit higher than what I gave it, but around that ballpark, so fairly enjoyed, I think. But I do wonder, I did see 3,000 odd is more than the usual. Usually they get about 2,000 reviews. I wonder if some people are just going through like Stephen King backlogs of like anything that he's done, and maybe they've just watched this episode of the X-Files.
Possibly. Yeah. And they're already fans.
Yeah. Who knows? Do we have any tweets this week?
Welcome to Dan's Twitter Corner.
Yes, we do. I could read a couple of them out. As with like the last couple of weeks, there's a few too many to read out. But a lot of people are getting in touch and sort of saying that our show really helped them over the last year, and they've listened to us throughout the year, and we're in like their top 5 lists and stuff like that. Really awesome to hear. Anything we can do to help. Like, we're just two guys like pissing about with a mic. That's all we're doing. But if it's helping people, honestly, it makes my day to know that.
I don't think either of us expected when we started this that we'd be podcasting during a global pandemic.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't in the plans. But yeah, a lot of people got in touch with that. So thank you very much. We love it. We love all the shout outs. It's great. So yeah, we got a couple of tweets. One from Cheryl. And she said that she's listening to Tombs right now, so like way back at the start. Been a fan since the original one. It's great getting a new view on the show through you guys. She just discovered this podcast. Still in season 1, but loving it and can't wait to catch up. Long way to go. But then again, what better way to spend a pandemic than catch up with Most Unwanted?
Yeah, I've been doing that a lot recently, just catching up on stuff.
Most Unwanted.
But yeah. I don't listen to it, so yeah, it's took a while.
I wouldn't bother, Luke. Two absolute idiots hosting it.
2 more white dudes on the internet talking about something. Who needs that, eh?
And then we had a couple of comments on schizogeny. Is it schizogeny or schizogeny? I can't remember what we decided.
Schizogeny, I think it was. Schizogeny.
We'll go with that. Yeah. Ray got in touch and said, just finished listening and my sides hurt from laughing, guys. You are both so kind with your reviews, because for me this episode is a mess. It's on my list of never to be rewatched episode of the X-Files ever again. Ooh. I mean, well, that us being kind lasted a week. I hope you don't really love this next episode, because maybe we're just off kilter.
Hey, do you know what though? I completely forgotten about what we. When I read that tweet, I was like, what did we say that was funny? Like, there's so much that we say in these that once I've said it and we recorded, edited it, I have no idea what I've said. And it's like, I couldn't fathom. I was like, we're not that funny.
You know what? I think it was just us grasping at straws, maybe. Yeah. I didn't mind the last episode.
I think he was talking about the darkness.
Oh, yeah. Which makes a reappearance in this bloody episode. Yeah. They need to sort that lighting out. They really do. And a lot of people having the same sort of opinions as of that. Kathy said that I appreciated your comments on the episode. It is a mess of an episode to be sure, although the first 2/3 is fairly strong. What saves it for me is Mulder's character moments, his intuitive connections, and his empathy. I think he's hard. I think he's a hard kid to love. Is perfect. It's a perfect line. And I think we mentioned the same thing as well, that those moments between those characters, and much like this episode, to be honest, it's the character development, and it tends to be one of the things that X-Files really got going for it, because it can kind of cover over the cracks if it's a bad plot or it's just not really grabbing you. The character and the character interactions always tend to. Yeah,
I think that's why there's a lot of episodes in these later series that I actually have probably given more of a passing grade than I should, because now we're getting to the point now where their character interactions are so sort of either cute or funny, or there's always something like that in it. Whereas the earlier episodes, you get that a bit, but you're sort of not as fully invested at the beginning. So I feel like some of the episodes earlier on really did get a unfair shake because they just didn't have this sort of character connection to build from, I guess. But
on the flip side, maybe we're being kinder to later episodes because we've got that, you know what I mean? It works both ways.
Yeah.
And I'd be very interested. I mean, we've not even got through the first run through of X-Files, but if we ever looked back at seasons again, I'd be very interested to see how our opinions change on season 1.
Yeah.
Now that we know the characters, you know what I mean?
And where it's going and this and that. Yeah.
Exactly. And then the last one, just before we go, Green Elf Oz got in touch, said, I just finished the Emily episode. Didn't want to listen to it before Christmas. Too sad.
Sorry.
Yes, that's on us. We'll take responsibility for that. He also put, we did discuss warning you, but spoilers. So yeah, thank you very much. But they said, anyway, once again, you made me think about an episode in a new way and notice a pattern that relates to later seasons. Love it. They're my favourite type of tweets, to be honest, because I really like long-time fans of the show getting in touch with us and saying, well, you noticed something different, or watching it through those new eyes made me look at it in a different way and stuff like that. Yeah. And I love that because it just goes to show that, like, that's what the community's about, I think. That's what makes a community on a TV show like X-Files or any show like it really take on a life of its own when you get so many people all analysing it and sort of taking it apart, putting it back together, putting their own views on it.
Yeah.
And then it transcends what the show is. Do you know what I mean?
It's because it's got I think if you love something, like, you can sort of look at it in so many different ways. Like, if you sort of don't have a care for it, you know what I mean? It's just sort of like content or whatever to you, and you're just like in one ear out the other. It sort of doesn't, you don't really think about it for a long time. Whereas if you love something, you watch it, you're always constantly thinking about what is this character in relation to what's happening. And and I suppose when you get a fresh pair of eyes, sort of, with us anyway, where we're watching it, 30 years removed from when it was, 25 years removed or something like that from when it was first released as well. There's different contexts of the time, when it was released then and now. So you get that sort of fresh perspective as well. So it's always good to sort of, when you love something, to have this discussion about it. And I mean, this is the number one reason why we started this, is because it's just always interesting.
It's what drew us to the X-Files, because it has that sort of cult following.
Yeah.
And the only way I can sort of kind of relate, because obviously we're still only halfway through this journey with the X-Files, the only way I think we both can relate is with Lost, because we've got a similar relationship with that, where we've watched it multiple times. But even with Lost, if you think about the way we watch it and how the different things we take about it because of the different points we are in our lives when we watch it, or like you've had a different experience, or you're younger, or you've got more life experience, or even if you're just in a different state of mind at the time, and you take different things from different episodes. And I'm speaking for both of us. I don't think we've ever really spoke about it. But then the rewatch tends to be a very different experience to the initial watch.
Yeah, I think especially with Lost as well, as when you know where everything's going. Like, the first episode is very different when you know where it's going to end up. But yeah, like, I think with anything, like, the rewatch is always interesting because you're always noticing things that you didn't watch the first time because you're just looking at it at a surface level. We watched something recently for our film club, which was a rewatch for me. And it was interesting to just notice other things. Like, I was like, oh, I noticed that the patterns in this sort of room and stuff were relating to something. There was something that really, the first time around, I would never have even noticed that, because it's like, no one's looking for that. But when you know where the plot's going, you sort of notice everything else. And it would be interesting to do a rewatch of this. I don't know if I could do a single episode rewatch, but hey, who knows?
Maybe once the show's over, we'll go through. You know what I think would be a good idea? binge episodes.
Yeah, yeah.
So you just like watch a season and we review a season and we go through like what the season meant. That's an option for us, but way down the line. We've still got a lot of X-Files to go.
We've got a while.
And in the meantime, keep sending us your tweets or your emails. Just, you know where to find us. It's great to hear from everybody.
So next week, we are looking at an episode called Kill Switch, which...
that could be anything.
Nice rhyme there. I'm sure I've seen this on a list of the not so great episodes of X-Files.
Oh dear.
Not to temper any expectations. So this could be our worst run of episodes.
We've had
We've had it too good for too long.
Got such a strong start. That's the problem.
Yeah. But hey, we don't know. We've not watched it yet. That's somebody else's opinion. Let's find our own opinion. Let's see how we get on. You'll find out next week. But anyway, guys, we gotta go. We gotta call. We gotta run. And Scully both go to visit Melissa at this point, but find that the house is abandoned or unoccupied. That was weird. Unoccupied. Oh god, we've not had any bloopers for a while.